There is a type of edit that's used commonly in all sorts of video and film productions. It's called a matched action edit, sometimes called a match cut or matching on the action. What you do is you take two different scenes, typically wide and tight, tight and wide, where the action is going on there, and the action is the same in both scenes. And then you want to line up where the action matches and then make your edit there. It's good for continuity, it strengthens your storyline, and it's just a great way to add interest to your stories. So when you're out shooting, think in terms of getting matched action shots that you can then edit into a matched action edit. I'm going to show you how to do that in Premiere Pro using something called markers. Markers make it easier to do matched action editing. So let's go to Working Files, open up Projects, and open up 0703 Matched Action. We're going to revisit the interview sequence and the piano sequence. The deal in the interview sequence is to cover up this kind of clumsy zoom here, where it starts right about
so
there.
So you can chase them around the court and keep them on their toes.
And then settles down there. So we want to be able to cover that up. And before we kind of felt our way around, this time we're going to be more precise. We're going to use markers to be more precise. Let me just go over here to the beginning of that funky zoom. Right about there it starts moving. So right before there, I'm going to put a marker that say, this is where I want to put the clip I'm going to use to cover this up. This is where I'm going to put the cutaway. And a marker is just a little guy that appears here above this little time ruler. And you can find the marker button right over there. It says Add Marker. The keyboard shortcut is M. It's a one-letter keyboard shortcut because it's something that you might use fairly often. So I click that and it adds up a little marker right there. Puts it above the time ruler. If I double-click on it, it opens up a dialog box and you can put information about the marker, comments, things like that. You can use markers for several purposes, including chapter markers inside a DVD project or creating a link to a website. Our concern here is just to have a placeholder so we can make our edit go a little more smoothly. So I'll cancel out of this. There's also a new markers panel in Premiere Pro CS6. There it is, and has our marker over there as well. But again, our concern here is just to use this as a placeholder, not to do anything more specific with it. So I'm going to go back to the project panel so you can see that. So we place this marker here where we want the cutaway to begin. Let's go over here to where we want it to end. Let's see where the shot settles down.
So you can make a winning shot.
Right about there it settles down. So I'm going to put a marker here as well using the keyboard shortcut M. Two markers. All right. So let's go over and find the shot that I want to use as a cutaway. So we go to Interview here, and we got these shots. And I'd rather go to Icon View, so I click on that. And now I've got to Control double click on this bin to open it up here in place. There we go. Scroll down here. Which one am I going to use? Well, I've used that one already in the previous lesson or a couple lessons ago. So let's use this one. It's obviously very similar. Let's double click on that to bring it into the source monitor. I want to find some place where hands more or less match the action on screen. So I need to make sure I'm at the opening shot at the first marker here. I can just drag my cursor over to approximately where it is. But if I right click here and say go to previous marker, it'll be right there. If I go a little bit ahead of it, I can see how she leads into that shot.
There is not. So that you can chase them around.
So she moves her hands kind of side by side there. Okay, so I'll go to that marker again, go to the next marker. So that's the shot we want to match. I'm going to go over here and try to find something that matches that. Take a look at it here.
So what's really critical about the backhand is that you have to have the right grip. It's a continental.
So it's kind of similar there. I'm just going to scrape through here. More or less like that. It's pretty close. People aren't going to be too focused on the hands, but that's a pretty good one right there. You see how that lines up with that? That's pretty close. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a marker there as well. I could just put an in point there and drag it down to that marker, but I want to put a marker here to show you that you can do it. I want to extend the in point out a little bit farther here so we can see how the markers line up. So I'm going to take this guy now and grab the video only down here. If I go to the beginning here, the beginning will line up with the marker, but I'd rather the marker line up with the marker. So I need to go over a little bit farther. And notice how it snaps there too. So that little triangle or that little half diamond showing up there, that's the marker lining up with this marker up here. So here I'm lining up the in point, but here I'm lining up the marker with the marker. So now we know they're both lined up. See the marker there showing up in the clip and the marker here showing up in the sequence. Now I can move this thing to the left or the right, but let's just see how this thing works at this point.
Playing in general is that you want to hit it where the player is not. So that you can
see now the hands weren't matching there because that wasn't the point where we wanted to match, but I did want to show you how the markers work. Now I'm going to drag this thing over to the marker, and it'll snap to the marker. It doesn't snap as hard as it would if you're just dragging this to the current time indicator. But see the black line there? That means we're now snapping. So I'm going to let go now, and let's see how that edit works now.
The player is not. So that you can chase them around the court and keep them on their toes.
Great, now that's fine. Now, last time we needed to kind of guess where the out point was because we didn't have a marker, but now we've got the marker there, so we know we want the cutaway to last that long. So I'm going to drag the right side of this to the left, trim it off to that point, and it'll snap to that point too. If I just go over to the left here, and see how it snaps? Doom, right there. So now we've got the exact length that we wanted. Let's see how that works.
So that you can chase them around the court and keep them on their toes so that you can make a winning shot whenever possible.
There we go. So that is how you can use markers to make that kind of a cutaway. And when you're done here, you can right-click on these guys like that. And you can clear all markers because you don't really need those markers anymore. And you can also do that over here. If you just right-click over here and say clear all markers right there. There you go. The markers have done their job. Let's move on to the piano sequence. This is a little trickier. We're going to do a couple of edits here. We want to really match this thing up with our hands. Let's just take a look at the beginning here. We want to put an edit right there, that bottom where she goes, bottom on her left hand. Bottom right there. So we need to find a shot that'll match there. So let's go back up a notch over here in the project panel and control double click here on the piano bin to open it up in place. I want to go get that shot with the music here. I know that that was toward the beginning of the piece. So I want to use that to cover up that little spot there, get a tight shot of her, or at least a medium shot of her playing that section there. So I'm going to double click on this to bring it into the source monitor. And I've already created a marker from before, so I'm going to undo that just to say that we need to start from scratch here. So let's find the place where we can match this up. She goes like this. Da-da-dum. So we'll try that here, see how it works. She starts right there. So da-dum, and she plays a little faster here, so we really can't hold the shot too long, but you get that da-dum right there. Right there, and probably went a little too far, so I'm going to have this be where the marker is. Got my current time indicator there. Press the little marker here. I can press M as well. This also has a M because we're inside the source monitor, so M works here. It'll work down here if this were active, but here this is active. You can tell it's active because it's got the little orange line around it. So M adds a marker there. We want to put a marker down here as well, so I'll just play that again. So we want to see how that works here. Right there. Put a marker there by clicking on this guy or pressing M. Now I've got these two guys lined up. I'm going to put an in point there. Maybe pull it back a little bit. I can drag this and pull it back a little ways. And we'll let this thing drift past there for now. Let's just take the video portion and drag it down to where the markers line up. If I go like this, that's the endpoint, but here is the marker lining up. See a little half diamond there lining up? And now the markers lined up. Let's just see if this thing works as is, but I'll trim it later. So that works pretty well. I'm going to trim this thing to the marker now. It snaps to the marker. We'll hold it just for a phrase there. So we'll cut there. We can come back to this if we want to. Now I want to go to the point where she hits that little bass note we used before. Now that bong right there. We're going to use that as a marker, but we're going to have that be sort of the center of a longer clip. So I'm going to go to the point just where she starts depressing the key. See if you watch her left pinky there, where she just starts depressing the key. I'll put a marker there by pressing M. Let's go to the shot that looks down the piano from a low angle, this guy right here, and open that up. I want to get to the point where that finger just touches that key. Right there. Just where she starts depressing the key. Right there. Put a marker there, pressing the M key. We can put the endpoint someplace way the heck out here. Let's say right there. We're not going to worry about the out point at this point. Now I'm going to drag just the video down here such that the markers line up. So where are those markers? Right there. That's where the marker lines up. See it lining up there? Now it looks like that little hourglass thing there. There we go. It's lining up like that. Now we probably don't need to have it last this long. Maybe I'll just listen to it for a second. Let's bring this over and see if it'll fit, because we know that the timing's a little off here. So we really nailed that one, though. We know that one's going to be perfect because we lined up those markers. Now we'll cut out of there. We can come back to the shot. So there you go. That's how you use markers. You can use markers to mark, let's say, the beginning of a clip or beginning of an edit, and you can have a marker both inside the sequence and on the clip you're bringing down. Or you can use it as kind of a reference point here where you're going to at least line something up within the clip, and then you can extend the clip on either side of the marker, knowing that that guy's going to line right up where you need it. So using markers to make matched action edits.